Are you ready to get out of your blanket rut? Watch this video if you are. Blankets. Oh, blankets. Oh, that's a pretty one. But you're tired of blankets and you want to expand your crochet skills. Well, let me show you how. It's so simple. A blanket is basically a rectangle, right? Well, you pick your stitches and go from there. But it's a rectangle. Okay, this was 2 rectangles. This was actually my design from my previous video. But let me show you. All that took was 2 rectangles. And then you seam at the shoulder, and you seam on the sides, and boom, you've got yourself a gorgeous, comfortable summer top using your crochet skills. So now I am going to make something different. Same basic rectangle, same stitches, but with a couple of little tweaks, this turns out to be an entirely different summer top. Stay tuned. Keep watching. And don't forget, head over to my homepage here on YouTube, Crazy Cool Crochet, and you will find so many more really cool, mostly simple crochet tutorials. Most are wearables. I do have a lot of home decor also, so look around. Hold on, don't leave yet. You've seen the finished product, but you don't have time to sit here and watch the entire tutorial, right? Understandable. You can still grab the printable pattern right now so you don't forget about it over at Crazy Cool Crochet us.etsy.com. I will leave a link to that pattern down below the video in the comments section, so you can just click on the link and it will take you right to this pattern. And for those of you not familiar with my channel, this is Crazy Cool Crochet and my name is Sylvia. Now, if you happen to have seen my last tutorial, my last project, I mentioned that it turned out so much more gorgeous than I had even originally intended or designed. That was because that was not what I had originally intended or designed. This project today was the original design. So in very many ways, this is the same pattern with a couple of minor changes that completely transformed the final wearable. So for this one, I am using the same yarn, Bee Yarntopia. It's a number 2. I much prefer a number 2 because it keeps it super lightweight, super flowy. So in addition to the yarn, which by the way, you're going to have the detail as to how much yarn was used down in the description area below the video, which you have to open it up. It gives you a lot more information down there. So we've got the number 2 yarn. We've got number 4.25 millimeter hook. Yes, you can use a 4 or a 4.5. The yarn needle, scissors, and a measuring tape would come in handy. Now, rather than reinvent the crochet hook, I am going to reuse some of the tutorial from the last project because, as I said, it is the same design with a couple of minor changes that totally transformed the final look. So I will, of course, let you know where changes have been made. So you do want to follow this particular video for the final look. All right, we will be working with a multiple of 10 plus 6. And I will be working from a swatch just to show you the stitches. So my swatch was 36 chains. So 30 plus 6. So the first thing we're going to do is skip 6 chains. I'm going to make that last one again because it shrank up so much. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the next chain, work a double crochet. And yeah, this yarn does split, as you saw. Okay, there's a double crochet. Now we're going to chain 3. Going to skip 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the next chain, single crochet. Now chain 3. And skip 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now work a double crochet. Chain 4. Double crochet again into the same stitch. Okay, so now what we have done is created a V-stitch. And it is very unusual in the V-stitch to do the 4 chains in between the double crochets. It's usually 1 or 2. But for this, we're doing 4 chains. And now we're going to chain 3. Skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next one, single crochet. Chain 3, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do your V-stitch. So a double crochet, chain 4, double crochet in the same stitch, and chain 3. So there's how we're looking so far. And then we're going to continue across the row. So then you will skip and do your single crochet. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then single crochet. Chain 3. Right now you're going to do your V-stitch, however, a little bit differently. So skip all the way over to the last stitch. Work your double crochet. And this time only chain 2. And then double crochet in the same stitch. There's a little bit smaller V-stitch. Then chain 3 and turn. Now we are going to skip all the way over to that first single crochet and work a V-stitch. So you're going into the center of that single crochet. I hope you can see that. Work into the single crochet. So double crochet, chain 4, double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 3. Now in the center of the next V-stitch, single crochet. So under that 4 chain space, single crochet. Chain 3. Go to the next single crochet and work your V-stitch. Ooh, that was messy. Okay, chain 3. Now in the V-stitch, single crochet, chain 3. Now in the single crochet, your V-stitch. Chain 3. And single crochet into that last space and chain 5. Okay, so you can see the beginning of the flower there. And then turn. All right, now right into that first single crochet, work a double crochet. Chain 3. Now skip over to that V-stitch and do your single crochet and chain 3. And now once again, work your V-stitches into the single crochet. Okay, so for that very first stitch, that chain 5 and that double crochet there counted as V-stitch or a double crochet, and the chain 2 in between. And then you continue your pattern as usual till you get to the end. Now at the end of row 3, this is where it gets just a tiny little bit tricky. Okay, so we're going to enter our last V-stitch. Remember, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, into the first chain of that 3 chain space. Okay, so there's your 1, 2, 3. Start your V-stitch. We're going into that first chain of that space. Work your double crochet, chain 2, and your double crochet in the same space. And then you would chain 3. Okay, did you get that? Okay, so you did your last single crochet of the row, chain 3. And then we're going to enter the V-stitch into the first chain of that 3 chain space. I know that's kind of quirky, but that's the pattern. Okay, see there? And then you'll chain 3 and turn, and then for row 4 you will repeat row 2. So now you're going to skip over to that first single crochet and work your V-stitch. Chain 4, remember? And then chain 3. Okay, so you work your V-stitch with the chain 4. And then into that previous V-stitch in the space, do your single crochet. Is this coming back to you? Chain 3. And then V-stitch in the single crochet over here, V-stitch over here. Don't forget your chain 3s in between. So the only time you're working with chain 4 is with your V-stitches inside the body. The V-stitches at the end of the row, you only do a chain 2. So that's it. And then the next row, you'll repeat row 2. So you're just repeating, you'll repeat row 3, sorry. So you're just repeating row 2 and 3, 2 and 3. until you get to the length, or as many rows as you need. So for my panel, I did rows. So the easiest way to count your rows is to start with a single crochet on your first row. Okay, so of course in the first row you've got your V-stitch, single crochet, V-stitch, single, okay. Find a single crochet in that first row. That's row 1. Row 2 will then be the V-stitch. Row 3 is the next single crochet. Row 4 is the V-stitch. So if you start with the single crochet as row 1, then every V-stitch is 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. I'm off camera here. And then I ended with 3 rows. When you complete your last row of your panel, it does not matter which row you end up on, except that when you get to that last stitch, only chain 1 and then turn. Now we're going to change it up. We're going to do a completely different pattern for the rest of this panel. So what you're going to do is start with a row of single crochets. And the only thing you need to be mindful of here is that you end on an even number. Now my suggestion is to start with to work with a single crochet, 1 single crochet into the single crochets below. Okay, so there's 1 single crochet. And then into the 3 chain spaces and the 4 chain spaces, work 2 single crochets. Okay, so here goes 2. That was a chain 3 space. Here's a chain 4 space. So work 2 single crochets. Here's another chain 3 space. Work 2 single crochets. Now there's a single crochet, so work 1 single crochet into the single crochet. And then 2. And then 2. 2 again. 1. 2. 2 single crochets in there. 2 single crochets over there, and then count. When you get to the end, count how many single crochets you ended up with. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I need to do one more because I need to end on an even number. Okay, so I'm going to choose to enter one more into that last space. So now I'm at 22. Okay, so we're just establishing a foundation row here of single crochets. Okay, now keep in mind as you are working your single crochets, because the panel is going to obviously be much longer than the swatch, you'll want to watch that you are spacing your single crochets as evenly as possible. So doing it the way I suggested should work out fine, but be careful. If you are adding too few single crochets, this will begin to buckle. If you are adding too many, this is going to ruffle. So just take care that it's fairly even. All right, so at the end of that single crochet row, chain 2 and turn. Now here's where the stitches get really fun. I really love this stitch. Okay, so we're going to skip that first little stitch right under the turning chain, and into the next one, start a single crochet. Okay, so grab your yarn for 2 loops on the hook. Pull through 1 loop. Now yarn over as if for a double crochet into the same space, same stitch. Now you have 4 loops on the hook. Pull through all 4 and then chain 1. Okay, so we're going to skip the next stitch and repeat. So start as if for a single crochet, 2 loops on the hook, pull through 1. You still have 2 loops. Grab your yarn in the same stitch, pull through for 4 loops on the hook. Pull through all 4, chain 1. Skip 1 and repeat. 2 loops on the hook, pull through 1, 2 loops on the hook remain. Grab your yarn, pull up, 4 loops, pull through all 4, chain 1. Skip 1, 2 loops, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through for 4 loops, pull through all 4, chain 1. Okay, skip 1, skip a stitch, pull through 1 loop, grab your yarn, pull through 4 loops, pull through all 4, chain 1. Okay, so do that till you get to the end. So at the end of that first row of your cluster stitches, you're going to have 2 stitches left. So skip 1 as usual and work your last cluster into that last stitch. Chain 2 and turn. Okay, now this will be your repeat row, where you are going to go into each cluster stitch and work a cluster stitch. Okay, so they're going to be worked on top of each other. Now, where we enter our stitch is to the right of that single bar there. Okay, so the space is pretty obvious when you start working. Okay. So enter into that first little space there and work your cluster as usual, for lack of a better name. Pull through the 4 loops, which I just messed up, chain 1. Skip over to the next cluster. There is your space. See that bar? Okay, so enter to the right of that bar. Chain 1. There's the next one. So that's all you're doing. So easy. But I think it's quite fun as crochet stitches go. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just continue that to the end. And you will enter your last cluster into the last cluster of the row. There's your bar. She'll be working into here. Chain 2, turn, and repeat. So just keep repeating. And here's a little sneak peek of what that portion of the panel will look like. To steam block the floral portion only. That's all you need to block. I put a towel underneath, then the panel, then a pillowcase. Now I have already stretched this out the way I want it to sit, And then the very bottom, the first row, you're going to have to use your fingers to manipulate that after it has been heated up. So I take my iron, and that's all it takes. And I did go ahead and press on the pillowcase very, very lightly, very quickly, and we're done. The next thing to do after you have blocked the bottom, the floral portion, and really, if I didn't make it clear, it's just the first row at the bottom that will need to be blocked, just to straighten out that first row. Okay, now after you have done that, you're going to take your two panels. Oops, I've already done that one. You're going to take your two panels, put them right sides touching each other, wrong side up, and we're going to seam the shoulders first. So decide where you want or how wide you want your neckline opening and place stitch markers. I've already seamed this side, and this is about 11 inches wide. So you're going to take your yarn needle, a length of yarn, and attach it to your two panels at the cornermost stitches. I always do a knot here, or I tie it off. And then you're going to just use a simple whip stitch. So you're just going to go from back to front. Go under two strands always when you're seaming. That'll give you a stronger seam. And then go back around to the back. And then to the front. And that's it. So just go back to the back, to the front, and pull it through. When you get to the end of, or when you get to your stitch marker, go ahead and tie off the yarn. Make sure that you come over your stitches, I'd say about 1 inch, and then seam or weave that leftover tail however you prefer. You will seam the side the same way. And that's it, you're done. Thank you so much for watching. In case you missed my note at the very beginning, I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I'm currently at 72,000 as of this tutorial. If you are not yet subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you would. Please, a thumbs up if you like this one. Leave a comment. All these things are super helpful to the channel and I truly appreciate you. We will see you on the next project.